So we as humans, we kind of suck. We know we shouldn't be judging people, but we do it anyways the moment we meet someone new. And these judgments are often subconscious and done in less than half a second. So for me personally, I recently started a new job and I'm literally judging every single person that I meet, not intentionally, but I'm constantly assessing whether this person is trustworthy, if he or she is nice, or if he or she is reliable. These first impression judgments are often inevitable, and some of us consider ourselves to be a relatively good judge of character. So as we meet more and more people throughout our lives, we find ourselves more often than not right about our judgments when it comes to judging people's character. Have you ever feel like, let's say you meet a person and you tell yourself, oh, this person looks pretty mean, and he or she always is a mean person? Or if you see a person and you believe this person is unreliable and untrustworthy, and he or she often does something shady to you, you then rightfully come to the conclusion that you are a pretty good judgment of character. However, what if we take a different perspective? Sounds crazy, but what if we're actually controlling other people's behavior with our thoughts? Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Tim and I'm a recent IELTS psychology grad who currently works for Amazon as an area manager. In this video, I want to talk about self-fulfilling prophecy and how our thoughts and expectations are subtly manipulating other people's behavior. So by definition, self-fulfilling prophecy is a process through which an originally false expectation leads to its own confirmation. In a self-fulfilling prophecy, an individual's expectations about another person or entity eventually result in the other person or entities acting in a way that confirms the expectation. Though this sounds absolutely buttocks, but there's actually some validity to it. Unfortunately, no, we do not have some crazy telekinesis ability that we can actually manipulate and control other people's behavior, but our expectations on other people can actually influence our behavior towards them, which in turn creates a response that we want to elicit that confirms our initial belief. So going back to the example that we talked about judging other people that we just met. So let's say you met someone and you believe this person is unwelcoming and mean. So since you already have that expectation before actually knowing the person, your approach and your behavior when you first approach them and talk to them may be unwelcoming. So you might be talking to them at a further distance, you might have your arms crossed, or you might not even be making eye contact. You subtly doing these behaviors without yourself knowing can cause them to believe that you are unwelcoming, which can make them react in a way that's unwelcoming to you, which makes you believe that they are a mean person. A research psychologist, Bob Rosenthal, I believe, studied this phenomenon in a double-blinded study in which he has 2 cages of rats, just completely normal rats that you get from a normal research facility. So he hung up signs all over these 2 cages, with one cage labeling these rats, the rats that are in the cage are super smart and the other ones are super dumb. Though both rats are completely similar in terms of intellectual ability, keep in mind this is a double-blinded study. When Bob assigned a group of experimenters and assigned each individual experimenter to an individual rat and recorded the time it takes for each individual rat to complete a maze, the results were absolutely astonishing. Even though all the rats are the same kind of albino rats, the allegedly smart rats actually perform twice as well as the dumb rat. So the reason for that is not because one rat is actually smarter than the other, but rather the expectations of these experimenters that's influenced by these signs that's on the cage influence their behaviors towards these rats. So these experimenters that's handling these smarter rats are more warmly, more welcoming and nicer to these rats, which cause them to perform better. So the experimenters that's handling these dumber rats have the expectations that their dumb rats are going to perform less well, which cause them to handle them less nicely and being more rough to them, which cause them to perform less ideally. Self-fulfilling prophecy is also seen in classroom or social settings. Let's say a teacher believes this student is less intellectual due to his race or in socioeconomic background, may pay less attention and give him less resources, if you will, to the student, which causes him to be not on the same level playing field as other students to be successful. Hopefully all these examples kind of helped you understand how our judgment of people may not be as accurate as you think, and also how our initial judgment can actually really sabotage our chances of building relationship with other people, because these judgments are often biased and unfair. Now let's switch gears a little bit. Self-fulfilling prophecy can be imposed on other people, but it can also impose on yourself. So technically, you are influencing your own behavior with your own thoughts. I know it sounds stupid and obvious for now, but hear me out. So let's say you are trying to develop a new habit, a more healthier habit, if you will. So if you're trying to, let's say, start going to the gym more 3 or 4 times a week, or start eating healthier. However, you have always identified yourself as not a sporty person, doesn't like sport, too skinny. These self-identities that you have placed on yourself can really sabotage your chances of actually developing that habit that you want to develop. In James Clear's ever-popular book, Atomic Habits says, many people walk through life in cognitive slumber, blindly following the norms attached to their identity. So in time, you begin to resist a certain action simply because that's not who I am. And also, this creates an internal pressure to maintain this self-image and to resist in certain actions that's not consistent with your beliefs. So in the last 3 years in my previous job as a labor planner, I've always worked the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And in the pre-COVID days, before we started working remotely, in order to make it to work on time, I have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to get showered and get ready, do everything in the morning, to go through my morning routine in order to make it to work on time. However, no matter how much coffee I drink or how early I go to bed the night before, I'm always groggy in the morning. I therefore begin to identify and label myself as not a morning person. So with this label, I eventually gave up my effort to start developing a early riser routine. So I stopped avoiding late night caffeine or blue light. I stopped going to bed early, and essentially I just accepted crappy mornings. So this ultimately led to me being late every single day of those 3 years that I worked in my previous job. Good thing I was a salaried team member, so being late isn't really that big of a deal, but my punctuality as a person really suffered. So your behavior is a direct indicator of who you are, either subconsciously or consciously. Therefore, you'll always have problem doing something that contradicts with who you believe you are deep down. So my belief in myself as not a morning person caused me to give up on the development of habit for good to develop a better sleep routine that's going to increase my productivity and performance, and just accepted the fact that I'm gonna be late every single day simply because I'm not a morning person. And obviously, being late to work every single day is not the most ideal thing ever. So if you're struggling to develop a new habit or even to start, instead of starting from the outcome, let's say to get to work on time every single day, to wake up early every single day, or go to gym at least 3 or 4 times a week, instead of starting there, start from the within, from the identity first. Change the label and who you believe you are first, then work your way up to the routine and the outcome. By changing your self-identity and expectations of yourself, you place yourself in the best position to be successful in forming a habit change. So I hope you find this more educational, more serious video helpful. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving me a like or subscribe. So that's it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.